Hello, I'm John Rossi, a touring drummer with a love of all things animal. When I'm on the road, I visit as many zoos, aquariums... Hey, wait a minute. What's going on? Hey, what's going on there? Hello? Hello? We interrupt your regularly scheduled program to bring you Rossifari Zoo News. News you can use from the world of zoos and conservation. Every week, we bring you breaking news and analysis from around the globe, featuring the animals you love and the people who care for them. And here's your anchorman, John Rossi.
Hi, hello, how are you? Welcome back to Rossifari Zoo News, your look at everything going on in the world of zoos, aquariums, conservation, and general animal weirdness. Except that that's not what today's episode is going to be, because we are doing a special edition episode featuring our good friend Dani Larson. So this week, Dani had a fly-off. Now, if you've been following the story of Dani throughout the years, you know that she is an incredible bird trainer at Southwick Zoo and started doing free flight stuff with her birds this year. And I got to go and see it, and it was so cool. And we've talked about it a lot on here. And there have been a few times that birds have slightly abandoned the trainers for a couple of minutes here or there or whatever. But this week, Dani experienced her first true fly-off. And I actually found out about it before Dani could tell me about it, thanks to social media. And so because of the intricacies of discussing what happens in a fly-off, which I thought would be interesting for my audience, and because I love to have kind of cautionary tales of social media stuff, I asked Dani to hop on Zoom and figured we could talk for a couple of minutes about each of those things, and then I would do a normal Zoo News episode around that. I forgot that Dani and I really like to talk and are really bad at not talking. And so we ended up really going into a ton of detail about our thoughts on all of this. And she really takes you through the whole fly-off. And we talk about the social media aspect of it. And we even get into a discussion about animal names at the end, which I think is kind of fascinating. And so, yeah, your episode of Zoo News this week is just going to be basically a Tuesday interview episode with Dani, everyone's favorite guest. And honestly, I thought of saving this once we were done and I realized how detailed we had been as a Tuesday episode. But y'all, I have so many interviews already recorded and so many more scheduled that I felt like it would be a disservice to push everybody back and have this be a Tuesday episode. So for all of you who have sent in your wonderful, Zoo News stories and everything, I thank you. And I will keep them in contention for next week, as I always do when I do a special episode. But yeah, we're just going to have this conversation with Dani. So without further ado, here it is.
Recording in progress.
Recording in progress. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
Good now.
Yeah, so I hear that you had a bit of a scary experience. So let's start off by telling everyone what happened.
Yeah. So on Monday, we were training Kiwi and Trouble, our hybrid macaws. It's so funny that we are trying to train this like really epic behavior with hybrids. It's like, why would you do that? They're just beautiful and they're flighted macaws. And we don't plan on talking about hybrids. We plan on talking about beautiful flying macaws and hopefully not talking too much about them, but just being like, behold, macaws, as they fly. Right? Because, that's what we want to see macaws doing. We don't want to see them perched on people's hands, vocalizing all the time.
Right.
Anyway, I digress.
And of course, your shows never go off script, so you won't have to worry about having to say anything. else,
Literally,
because you
never,
never have to
never.
stall for time or have anything.
Exactly, because the birds are actually robots.
Yes,
Actually, they're government
exactly.
drones, and they're not even being controlled by us or their own brains.
You heard it
Okay,
here first, folks.
birds aren't real. Okay, so what were we talking about?
Who
Oh
knows?
no,
Oh no, coughing fit.
no, I
And
was
you
like
know I'm
super
leaving this
sick.
all in.
Yeah, no, you're not gonna edit it. I know.
No.
I was so sick leading up to yesterday, and I like was already kind of losing my voice, and then yesterday it was gone. Like I'm able to speak now, so good thing we're doing this
Your
now.
team must have loved yesterday so much.
We loved yesterday so much. It's always fun when teams come together in the camaraderie, and you can tell those like remember when stories. And this one
I
was
just meant because you couldn't talk,
definitely.
though.
Oh, that's so funny. Here I am being like so philosophical.
I know. Okay, but seriously, you're right. But so say what happened, and then we'll talk about your incredible
Oh
team.
my God. Okay, fine. So we were training Pee Wee in Trouble. It's so funny. Oh my God. I want to talk so much about so many things that don't matter. But basically, long story short, Pee Wee and Trouble are this like bonded pair of hybrids that like we joke that got divorced recently because they just like started really arguing all the time. And we were like, you know what? Let's teach them how to have skills independently of each other. So basically, when we are flying them, we have one of them in a crate, one of them free flying, and then they take turns. So we had Trouble is usually always first, like fresh out of the gate, first rep. We're in kind of in the middle of the zoo. So we've been working, they're doing a loop. We're going to teach them a loop around half the zoo. So it's going to be a big loop. And so they are going to start behind the show arena, fly above the Red River Hog exhibit, go all the way up to the top of the zoo, close-ish to the entrance. And then they're going to cut into midway of the zoo and then come back like through the show arena from the front side. So they exit, they exit for their flight from the back, and then they enter from the front. It's going to be really cool. Okay. It's going to be super cool. Think like NEI's Wing Encounter shows at a major theme park in Florida.
Yes, that we can't say. That doesn't rhyme with Disney.
Exactly. we know this by now because we've been very well trained by our other friends.
Yes.
So anyway, we're training that. We have Trouble fresh out of the gate. He's trained to fly up to a really high ladder. For whatever reason, he goes to fly up to the ladder and he just bangs a left. Like, we can't get in his head. We don't exactly know. We don't want to label him as like scared, whatever. But something happened. He banged a left. He tried to go up into a tree. It was too low. The branch he landed in was just like a dangler. And so like it kind of like fell and broke a little bit. And then he just like took off and went all the way across the street, which like across the street isn't that scary for us because our bird barn is across the street. Right. He went across the street, but then down a hill and landed up in a tree right across from what we call Gate 4, which is actually right at the back, almost at the back of the show arena. The problem was he was high up in a tree really close to some power lines, which we didn't like. So if we tried to call him back towards the show arena, where he was an area that he was familiar with, he had to navigate these power lines and it would have potentially been dangerous. So we tried to instead call him into the other direction, which was closer to the barn. He's very familiar with the inside of the barn, not the outside of the barn. And we also have a beautiful maintenance building right in front of the barn with some very loud trucks and things that he, again, isn't comfortable with. So he's never had to navigate a fly off of this magnitude. So that's why we talk a lot about in this type of training that generalization is so important, especially with macaws at a young age. Like, you're training them like not dangerously near vehicles, but like they have to be semi okay with all that stuff because you just can't control it in a free flight environment. So, this was the first time he was really, really high up in a tree. We were playing around with different angles to get him to fly down to me. We call it kind of like zigzagging, but he was kind of like problem solving, zigzagging between some trees, right? So he tried to come down after like, I'm not even kidding, like an hour, but he just wasn't confident with the vehicles that were down there. So he flew back up, turned around, went into another tree. God, John, I stood on top of I scaled a dumpster and I stood on top of a dumpster for an hour. It smelled so bad. And I was
Yeah.
just up there trying. It was like the perfect shot. It was like a clear shot, but he would have had to drop. It was a steep decline. And like, that's a hard flight for a bird. So ideally, I needed to be really high, but a lot farther back. So we played around with that for a while. It wasn't working. This whole time we have Pee-wee in a crate, right? Because like she's a really important piece of the puzzle. They're divorced, but they're still bonded because relationships are complicated. So
They are.
Pee-wee's so Pee-wee's in a crate and she's kind of calling to him. She's kind of just sitting there chilling, getting herself some Zupreme. She's like, this is the easiest training session I've ever been a part of. And she's like, look at this fool up there just in a tree. So he's like kind of playing around with different angles, trying to figure out how to get down. He's got branches in the way. I am screaming for him like constantly to try to motivate him to come down. And then one thing that you can do in these situations, because a lot of times when you have especially a social species up in a tree like a parrot and they're up really high and they're trained to come down, you're waiting. If they're tired, if they're comfortable, if all of these different antecedents are in place, they're like, I'm good. I'm up here. I've got a good view and my flock is right there. I'm safe. I don't need to come down. There's not enough incentive for me. So we can use some negative reinforcement to our advantage. We can remove ourselves to increase the behavior of flying down, right? So that's what we decided to do. So we walked away and we went and hid on the side of the shop. And we were hidden for like 5-10 minutes. But somebody kind of still has to have eyes on the bird in case he does go back up in the air. So that happened and we were debating getting pizza because we were like, yeah, this isn't looking good. We're going to be here for a while. And as soon as we were like, yeah, Emily B's like, my boyfriend can come bring us pizza. We're like, okay, yeah, cool, bet. Like, what do we want? And then all of a sudden Hope goes, he's up. And so he flew around the corner because he couldn't see us. And he landed in a tree really close to us. And so we're like, cool, bird's coming home. I'm getting anxious because it's 5:30 p.m. and the sun is about to completely set. So, we've got him right in front of the barn. We're calling him down. It's still a steep angle, but it's a clear shot. He's in a really good tree. He's on a relatively sturdy branch. I'm like, yeah, this is going to happen. Finally, he decides to try to make his way down to my hand. And he just, again, lost his confidence. This time he flew above the barn and into one of the most heavily wooded areas in the entire town of Mendon.
Oh, no.
And he was calling as it happened and I was standing on top of a truck. So I just remember like I was hopping down off the truck and the other trainers were like running in that direction just to try to keep line of sight. And line of sight was lost because he was just, above the tree line and flew far. So we were like, all right, this is our first like fly off. Like Amy told me before, like all those Russell ones, that was just a detour. She right. Roasted me. She was like, Dani, that was not a fly off. That was a detour. Like you secured that bird in 6 minutes. No, that was a detour. This was our first fly off. So we didn't have line of sight. We couldn't hear him. We were calling. He didn't call back. We were like, okay, we don't know where he is. So fortunately, our boss lives kind of in the street where he was headed, like that direction. So we went to her house. We have Pee-wee. We're calling. We we put Pee-wee down in a safe spot and we walked away from her to get her to scream so that her calls would hopefully, she can scream louder than we can, So we wanted her calls. Yes. We are loud people, but she's louder. Yeah. So we walked away to encourage her to scream. We were recording her screams on Hope's phone so that we could then play them on our Bluetooth speaker in our vans, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Remember, the full name of Hope is the Heartbreaker. Hope the Heartbreaker.
Hope the Heartbreaker. Yeah, Hope the Heartbreaker.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But anyway, go ahead.
We digress again.
Yes, not even explain why. Anyway, go ahead.
This is precisely where I make the infamous post. Do you want to take it from here, John? Because John knew about this fly off before I could even tell him. He texted me saying, you missing a bird? And I was like, how do you know that? I think you texted me after I secured him. Did you text me yesterday? Like afternoon?
Yeah. Good question. I have there's evidence. Also Zoe says hi.
Hi Zoe, I miss you.
Yeah. So I texted you yesterday at 10 o'clock in the morning, and you had. So yeah, you sent me like an hour later. You responded with pictures of trouble being back. Yes.
Yay.
But so here's where this gets interesting, and the other part of it, like part of this is I thought it would be interesting for all of you to hear what a fly off was like from Dani's perspective. But the other part of this is I'm always talking to keepers and especially social media people and stuff that are listening. And we always talk about like FOIA requests and how like transparency is super important and you never know where people are going to find stuff now, right? So Dani decided to post.
Okay, but listen, with permission. I was
sure.
I did this. Yeah.
Smart girl, smart.
You know what's crazy though? Like I just feel like it would be real. It's impulsive, right? Like you're freaking out. You don't have line of sight, and anyway, go.
I will tell you real quick, just as a side note. This is exactly. I was out of town and Buzz ran off, our little chihuahua, and got lost. And Zoe was out trying to do stuff, but that's what I did. I hopped onto all of the next doors and Facebook groups that I could find and stuff. And Buzz was found within like 5 minutes. It was amazing. So there is a wisdom to doing this. And I will say right now, I don't think that you did anything wrong. But that being said, you posted in a private group called Mendon Upton Moms and Dads Too. And I am sure that you use this for lots of motherly things. But it showed up in my feed as like a suggested post. And this is a private group. So like, this is just one of those little reminders of like, you never know who's going to see what, when something's going to show up. And again, while we always encourage transparency with this podcast, you also do need to have the awareness of like, I know that you would have told me and we would have had this conversation without this part anyway, because you tell me that we talk all the time about what happened.
Yeah.
That being said, the fact that I, not as John, not as your friend, but as Rossifari, saw a private post about a missing zoo animal, other people could do not great stuff with that information.
No, because
it's worth mentioning.
No, it is. And when I first asked, like I was texting Betsy because I was at her house and she was like, I'm on my way home. And I was like, I have this strong feeling he's somewhere like in Mendon. Like he didn't go that far. I mean, I didn't know that for sure, but this is also a bird who hasn't flown that far ever. So I was pretty confident that he had to be close by. And now it was dark out. So I also was very confident that he wasn't going to scream back to us, even if he was only a couple 100 feet away. He's vulnerable. He's in a tree. He doesn't want to draw attention to himself. He's got enough of that instinct in him that he's like, I'm just going to be quiet now. I'm going to sit in this tree. I'm tired. I just flew really far. I don't know where I am. I'm all these things. So I knew that we weren't going to get him until the next day. And I also knew that as soon as the sun started to come up, I was like, he might go fly to a person because that's he's going to see a person and he's going to go, oh, hey. And then they're going to scoop him up and be like, wow, look at this amazing. That was where my fear was. But yeah, so I posted on this private group, which is really, that's the part that gets me, that it showed up for you because that was strategic. And also I never mentioned that it was from Southwicks. If you look at that original post, I said, I'm asking for the community's help in locating a free-flighted Catalina macaw. Here's the description. If you see or hear him, please text me. I put my personal phone number in there. Betsy and I talked about how we were strategically not going to discuss that this was a animal from Southwicks because we don't want people to immediately get excited that one of the birds escaped. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's also really interesting too. This experience really opened my eyes to people's lack of understanding of free flight, even people within the zoo community, because everybody wanted to help and everybody felt like it was such an emergency that we had to get him down no matter what. So we were being offered like, do you want me to get the cherry picker? Do you want me to find a tree climber? Do you want me to call the fire department? Do you want me to get a net and we can scare him out of the tree? Like we got all of those requests. And as frustrating as that is sometimes to hear, it's like when you're in the moment, it's also heartwarming to know that people want to help. But that's why oftentimes with fly-offs and how nuanced free flight is and how niche it is, it's really makes sense to just kind of keep it to yourself for a long time. And I know a lot of really experienced facilities that have been doing free flight forever, they have protocols that like, they're not going to reach out to the community if they don't have line of sight for over like 48 hours. You know what I mean? Like they're going to really try to do it themselves until they really desperately need help from the community. So, you know, going forward, we know that, you know, hindsight's always 2020, but when you're so nervous in that moment and you think that you might have a better opportunity of securing him quicker if somebody might have seen or heard something, if you're able to get that information, you might jump at that opportunity. But now we know that as soon as the sun goes down, they're going to be quiet. There's really no need for people to know. I wish, if this wasn't my first time doing this, that I hadn't made the post and that we would have attempted the next morning. And if we didn't have him by the next morning, then make the post, because now he's out at daylight. He might have gone up again. He might have gone looking, and then it makes sense. But a lot of people in those comments specifically were saying like, oh my goodness, I lost my double yellow-headed Amazon this year and he escaped and he flew out the front door. And here people are thinking that that's what this situation was, because I was posting as myself as an individual, not as Dani from Southwick's. So, you know, people were trying to help in that way. And they were like, has he ever escaped before? Is this the first time he's ever escaped? And my comment back to that was, this is a professionally trained flighted macaw. He doesn't escape. He flies freely with skill. That's why we're asking for the community's help in pinpointing his location, because as soon as he sees us again, he will come back to us confidently. I was like, I was like, this is why I'm asking people to contact me directly and not try to rescue him or acquire him yourself. And like, this isn't a bird that needs to be rescued. He just needs to be found by his trainers so that he can come to us. And that's definitely a big thing with free flight. And it's so funny because everybody who doesn't understand free flight was providing me with all of these solutions that were like, scare him away. Like, let's get him down. Let's get him down. I'm like, no, guys, like we want him to come. He's trained to come to us. We just need to give him the confidence that he needs, the motivation that he needs to come down. And it's not going to involve a net. It's not going to involve a chainsaw. It's not going to involve like shaking him out of the tree. Like, it's going to require a lot of skill on his part and a lot of problem solving and training on our part. And we were prepared for this. This is what we've been preparing for all year. Like, is this worst case scenario? And so, I mean, needless to say, I think the scariest thing for us was just the weather. And I do have to say too, like, everybody who knows macaws knows that they're very resilient, especially the larger ones. They are definitely able to handle much cooler temperatures than people think. I mean, per veterinarians everywhere, like we all know that they can handle colder temperatures. Everybody thinks they're tropical animals and they need to be kept at like 60-degree climates at all times. Like, that's not necessarily the case. Like, they're very resilient. If they're healthy, if they're on a good diet, if they're appropriately diet managed, they're going to be okay.
Right.
That being said, it requires a lot of energy to stay warm. And one of the first things we did when we got Trouble back, I mean, other than giving him a couple bites of food that we had on hand to secure him, we did put him on the scale when we got him back because we were just curious to see how much weight he had lost overnight. And he was 1,029 grams the day before. He was 995 grams after his fly off. So he lost about 35 grams overnight.
Wow.
So, I mean, like, it makes me feel confident though, right? Like, it's like, I know that he had enough in him to keep himself warm, and his body did what it needed to do to be comfortable enough out there. Was he more comfortable than he would have been in a 60-degree barn, like next to his mate cozy on his perch? No, but he was okay. And he did everything that he needed to do to come back to us. So I'm just really, really proud of our team. I'm so proud of him. I'm like, I feel like this is like initiation. It's like, okay, you guys are definitely like free flight bird trainers.
Right.
Like, you've done like the hardest thing.
That's the part that you always hear about being the tricky bit.
Exactly. So I just am like, so many props to Cassie Molina. We aren't even consulting with her currently, and she was on the phone with me immediately. I just texted her as a friend, like, hey, here's a silly thing. Look how high up trouble is. And she called me and was like, tell me some more about this. And I was like, okay, yeah. So like, I do need your advice. And she was just so, I mean, she said everything that we needed to hear. She was like, he's going to be okay. And you guys are going to get him back. But you definitely need to be up there. You need to be at the zoo before the sun rises. Because as soon as the sun rises and it's light out, he's going to be looking. He's going to be looking for his flock. He's going to be looking for information. And you don't want to miss an opportunity that he goes in the air and you don't see it.
Right.
So there were a team of 6 of us. We split up into groups of 2. There were 3 groups of 2. I was driving around Mendon with Pee-wee in the crate with another coworker, Emily B. I had looked at like my maps on my app, and I was looking for open fields because I was like, I can imagine if I'm in trouble and I'm flying over a heavily wooded area, I'm going to look for an open field to go land in a tree. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So we went to a farm. We encountered like a really cute dog who scared the shit out of me at like 6 a.m. But he was so cute, and we sat there giving him belly rubs until the sun came up, and then like his owner came out, and I was like, hey, yeah, sorry to like be weird, but we're here to find a bird. And he had seen the post, so he knew all about it.
Amazing.
And he said, yeah, like go into my field. So we're in the field, we've got our binoculars, we've got all the things, we're calling for trouble. It's also interesting because Cassie was telling us, like, make sure you really listen. So it's not like you can just call and call and call. It's like you have to call the name, and then you have to be so still and so quiet, and you have to listen. And it's like the crack of dawn. So like I'm listening, I'm hearing roosters, I'm hearing dogs barking like from a mile away. And I'm like, yeah, I'm starting to hear like phantom macaw screams because like I'm playing macaw sounds, and like every now and then Pee-wee screams. I'm like, I don't even trust my brain anymore. And at one point I get a call from Emily Macinda, who was where we had last line of sight of him. And she was like, where are you guys right now? And I was like, we are at the Mendon Town Forest. We just parked. I'm about to go hike in the woods, which is like maybe a half a mile from the zoo. And she was like, okay, I think I'm hearing Pee-wee. And I was like, Pee-wee did not just scream. And she was like, she like stopped for a minute. And she was like, she wasn't screaming like just a minute ago. And I was like, nope. And she was like, okay, I think I hear him.
That's amazing.
So I get back in the van and I drive to where she was. And as soon as I got out, I mean, like you always have faith the whole time that everything's fine, but your brain is always going to go to worst case scenario. I mean, the moment we stepped out of the van the night before, the first thing we heard was a pack of coyotes vocalizing. So like we were petrified. It was the worst thing we could have heard.
Yeah, that's rough.
So like it was rough, and I will not. Yeah, it was a big group of coyotes, but. So like as soon as I heard him scream myself for the first time, it's like I was just, Emily looked at me and was like, he's alive. And like we knew the whole time that he was probably alive, you know, and that he was fine. But like when you don't see for that long and you have no idea where he is, it's like this wasn't like an Alexi situation where they're wearing telemetry. We had no clue where this bird was.
Yeah.
So it was a very empowering. And then, from there, we went down. Me and Hillary hiked into the woods. They were screaming for him up the hill. And Hillary and I would just stop. Emily and team would scream. Trouble would scream. And then Hillary and I would get closer. And then I saw him. I finally saw him. And we tried to put ourselves into a position where, you know, he could see us and had a good flight down. But it's still a heavily wooded area. So we all were in the woods. We had a crate. We had Pee-wee in a crate. And I was like, you know what? We were there for an hour. I was like, you guys, the only way we're going to encourage this bird to come down to us is if we walk away. And so I was like, we're all going to walk away. I was like, Emily Macinda, you kind of like walk backwards and keep your eyes on him and let us know if he comes. So we're walking, and plan worked flawlessly. Trouble goes, wait, no. don't leave me. And so he flew down towards us, landed in a tree that was like maybe triple my height, much, much lower than he was before. And from there, he like firefighter style shimmy / climbed his way down to my hand. And that's how it happened.
Amazing. I have a question for you.
Okay, shoot.
So I have been told, I think mainly about dogs, so maybe it's just very different, but that it's not good, like if a dog runs off or whatever, or is running and you want to call them back and you call them back once or twice and they don't come, that it's not good to continually call their name, because it just takes away the effect of that, basically, right? But from the way that you were describing this, you were calling trouble like repeatedly, both when it first happened and otherwise. I'm assuming that you were doing the right thing because you're Dani and you're awesome at this. So what is the difference there, and why is it different?
I think it depends on the situation, because I think what you're describing is like keeping cues strong. Like we have this, this whole concept of like, if that's your cue and you're throwing it out like rapid fire and you're not really paying attention to whether or not the animal's paying attention or whatnot, it starts to just become noise and your cue becomes a lot less meaningful. Right. So you get all this latency and not paying attention to cue and all of that. For us, every time I would call his name and come on, trouble, like, come on, you got it, all that stuff, it would motivate him to move. Like he was starting to move his body. He would start to problem solve. He would try to like shimmy over to the side of the perch, try to get down. And yeah, we were probably calling for longer than we should have. And we were just problem solving, trying to figure out where we could kind of quote unquote ditch him to get him to follow us or call him into the show arena. But like I said, calling him to the show arena would have caused him to have to navigate some really tricky position of these power lines. So I just wasn't confident about that route. So unfortunately, the better route was in a less familiar area, which I think is what caused this whole mess. But I think in this situation, it was a lot of continuing to call his name just to motivate him to come down. It was almost like, I don't know if this is species specific and I'm kind of talking out of my ass, I'm not going to lie, but like with macaws, like when they're kind of in a stressful situation or like they've lost each other, they'll call back and forth to each other. Like even Pee-wee and Trouble were doing it. Like Pee would be like, and Trouble would be like, they're like, yeah, like we're right here. I'm with you. I'm present, but like, I'm not comfortable. And so I feel like in this situation, as I was calling, it was motivating him to be with me, to call and be stressed. But there's definitely something to be said for if you're sitting there doing it forever and it's not working, you have to switch something up, just like everything in training. If this isn't working, then I need to move on. I need to try something new. So that's when we start to put that negative reinforcement into practice. Like, okay, I'm going to walk away because, I'm going to walk away because you're just sitting there and this isn't working. So we're going to remove ourselves from the situation to motivate you to come down and follow us. Right. And that is ultimately what worked every time. Like when we were hiding on the side of the shop debating pizza is when he came down and was like, hey, what are you guys like? What are you talking? Pizza? Who said pizza? And then he got stuck in the tree again. And then the big one happened. And then when we were in the woods, again, it was like, yeah, okay, this isn't working. Let's all leave. Something that I asked Cassie, because I'm like, this is my first time retrieving a bird by hand from a big fly off like this. I was like, I did go up to him and I held my hand up super high because I was like, he seemed like he wanted to climb. I was like, is it bad that I allowed him to climb to me? Did I teach him that I will come to him in a fly off? Or would it have been better to stand where I was and wait and like teach him that he really does need to come to me? And she's like, no, at that point, it'd been 19 hours. Like all bets are off. You guys just want to get to each other and you want to support him in whatever means possible. If he wants to climb, cool, you can climb. And I'm going to be here to get you when you come down. So I thought that was really interesting because that was something
makes sense.
Yeah. Like I was watching the video back and I was like, oh, should I have done that? Or should I have like waited for him to come down to me?
Well, as I think about it too, I feel like he doesn't know it was a fly off with like air quotes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like,
sure.
it's not like he'll think of it in terms of that. And then the next bunch of times that you do free flight with him and don't just let him crawl on you, it's not like it's a different, you know, I mean, it's different that he's not in the arena, whatever, but it's not different. You know, he flew, it lasted longer, all that stuff. But yeah, I think even if it was like from a pure training perspective, one bad decision with him not making him fly down, who cares? Because you do so many of the good ones. Not every rep's going to be perfect, you know?
Yeah, and we use it as information to know what we have to do better next time. I mean, like, we know that he could use practice flying in and out of actual trees, like not just a ladder perch, not just that, like actual trees. Like, he needs to get really high up in a tree on a thin branch where he has to learn how to like kind of ladder shimmy down the tree. On those thinner branches, it's hard because, I mean, he's a big macaw. And if he lands on a really skinny branch, he's kind of bobbing up and down on the branch. It's like he's not going to feel stable enough to take off. So that's just going to require practice. And we're jotting all these things down, you know. The other thing that Cassie told me is she's like, a lot of times when you go to, when you're like in the fly off retrieval process, like you get so excited that the bird's about to come down. And it's like, at that point, all of your good training kind of goes out the window. But she said, you know, sometimes when you have groups there and everybody's like, yeah, come on, Joel, like you can do it. That's great. That vocalization is motivating him. But sometimes it can also be a little bit overwhelming for the bird. And depending on the situation, Trouble hadn't seen us in like 10 hours. And all of a sudden we're all there and we're holding our hands up and we're looking at him and we're going like this. And I told Cassie, I was like, his body language was like fluffed feathers and he started to bob his head up and down. And she's like, yeah, I mean, like, he was excited. And like, to what point, to what extent are you reinforcing that? So at one point, and he wasn't coming down. So at one point I did have to say to everybody, I was like, okay, I think he's a little overwhelmed. Like, when we all knew it, we're like, yeah, we're just all excited right now. We all knew that he was overwhelmed. So everybody stopped and put their hands down. And then I just tried to call him to my hand. And when that still wasn't working is when I decided, like, okay, you want to climb, you can climb. And I walked up really close to the tree and got up on a rock and stood as tall as I could. And that's what really motivated him to shimmy down to my hand. So it's still like, it's, you know, the training is always there. You're always thinking about what is the best training decision I can make right now. And sometimes you forget when you're in a really stressful situation, or you were, and then you're excited because the bird is 5 feet in front of you. And yeah, you just don't want to cause them to fly away again, you know?
Yeah, that's the scary part. It's like, we're almost done. And then zoom.
And it's so funny because I was just watching back the video moments ago. And one of the first things I said after he made contact with my hand, it's like everybody else was like, wow, oh my God, hi, how are you? The first thing I said was, great. It's like all I had left in me was crate. Like, I'm so happy to have this bird on my hand right now, but where's his effing crate? Let's get him in there. And they were ready. Like, I turned around and they were ready with the crate, and they knew what to do too. It's like we were all on the same wavelength. It was awesome.
That's fantastic though. That's
yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks for taking the time to share all of this, because like, you know, it's important stuff, and I think it's really cool.
I think so too. And it was funny. One last thing I want to share is we took a group photo of us in the woods with Pee-wee in a crate, under Trouble, who's in a crate. We're all holding Trouble in the crate, and we have our thumbs down like this. And we sent that to Cassie, and she goes, "Why are your thumbs down?" She was like, "Your thumbs need to be up." She's like, "You guys should be so happy. You should be celebrating." Like, and we were all of those things, but it's like, we didn't enjoy, you know, not sleeping at all the night before because one of our birds was outside. It was 36 degrees out. We were freaking out. Like, we didn't know where he was. It's like all of those things we didn't enjoy. And it made the retrieval so much more exciting. But once he finally got in there, we were like, that kind of sucked.
Yeah,
like,
no, I get it.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, free flight is awesome, but damn, that's
Yeah. Well, I literally, like, I saw that picture and I kind of had the same thought as Cassie. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. But then I instantly was like, except that I know this team and they're like sarcastically doing a thumbs down to like, they're doing a thumbs down at the event, not at like where they're at now.
Trouble. Like
yeah, these are all sarcastic little jerks, and I love them all. So,
and like his name is just so important.
I know.
And for the record, for everybody that's listening, we did not name him. This hybrid pair we acquired them many, many years ago. And when we first got them, we hated their names. We thought about changing them, but they said their names. They POA trouble. And it just became who they are. And honestly, we call him T more than anything, or Trubby. But I didn't include his name in my post, as you might have seen. And people were asking, what is his name? Because like that was important to them, because they thought that he would come to them if they shouted his name. I don't know. So I did say,
why hadn't you thought of trying that?
Why hadn't I thought of that? You know, I only can't talk for, the last 2 days because of it. But everybody was like, oh my God, that's so funny. He's really living up to his name. And I was like, oh, this is why I hate his name. It's like, he's not in this situation because he's trouble. Like, his name is Trouble, but that's not how he got here. I promise you. So anyway, needless to say, he will have a stage name. So if you come to South Lakes and see hybrids flying and we're calling them like Prius and Tesla, you'll know that it is actually Pee-wee and Trouble.
Boo.
Boo.
Stage names for animals are so weird.
Listen, you got to do it sometimes, though. You got to do it sometimes, because I don't want to listen to people telling us how funny his name is. His name is literally a label. And we preach all the time to not label animals. And this bird's name is a label. Like, they'll just be P and T. This is P, that's T. You know? You hate it.
I actually don't hate I don't hate like initials, nicknames, stuff like that. I hate when you just change the animal's name for presentation purposes. I don't like that. But it is different. Like, PNT doesn't bother me. Prius and Tesla, even though they start with the same letters, does bother me because they're different names. If that makes sense, you know what I mean? It's like, because I believe that naming animals is important. I get annoyed at facilities that put up quotation marks around their animal names, or the ones that there are very few, but the ones that won't name them.
Or won't even share the name.
Yeah, because I think that knowing the name of something builds empathy, builds a relationship. And that's all important. And so I think it's almost like, I mean, yes, if you have a public facing name and a behind the scenes name, as long as the public only knows the public facing name, they are still getting that. I get that. But at the same time, I feel like it's just a weird, like, fake layer to the relationship. And also, like, I can't tell you the number of keepers, even before I started this. I'm not talking like interviews and stuff like that. I'm talking to keepers that have been like, oh yeah, that's Joe. And then 5 minutes later, they're like, yeah, Bobby said this. And I'm like, who's Bobby? And or Bobby did this. And I'm like, who's Bobby? And they're like, oh, I mean, Joe, sorry. That's actually, we changed his name because of a donor, blah, and it just makes it weird. That's why
I feel like if I were a visitor, I would feel a little offended that I was lied to. Like, I don't get the inside scoop. Like, I don't like totally that. See that perspective. Yeah.
And also going back to what we've talked about with the internet and how you just, it's out there now, and you're not a local zoo, no matter where you are and what you do. Right. I know many stories. Now, granted, pandas are a lot. But I know stories of zoos that have, gotten a panda through the SSP and stuff and changed the name and made tens of thousands of dollars. I mean, I know one facility that by changing 2 names was able to build a brand new habitat and breeding center for red pandas. So, like, I get the financials behind it, but they pissed off all of their fans. And I know one zoo that changed one panda's name, and the zoo that it had come from, not the actual zoo, but fans of the panda at the zoo, had organized 3 bus trips to go and see the panda. And they canceled them when they changed the name.
Oh, wow.
Like, it really offends people and bothers people. So yeah, so I do. I get a little weird about the names, but like he doesn't bother me. You're still, that's fine. And if somebody asks, you can say it.
And you know what? For this one, it's specifically because his name is a label, and it brings up this like bout of frustration with us. Like when we don't like his name. Like we just don't like it, and it doesn't define him and his behavior. And so that's the piece that always frustrates us. But like,
so as a storyteller, my suggestion to you would be to shout his name from the rafters. Tell everyone what it is and explain that he was called that and that you wouldn't have kept that name because you don't like labels. And you can even be like, now in this case, it's funny because he has caused us some trouble, but he's not trouble. You know what I mean? Something like that. Like, because I think it could be a good teaching moment where people still feel connected and actually get to know the animal. You know?
Well, I mean, it's hard too because it's so ingrained in us. It's like I don't know how people do like stage names so confidently. It's like, how do you not mess up? Like I would mess up so bad.
I know.
But that's the thing that's fun with Pee Wee in Trouble, because I mean, they're not going to be part of like a big talking presentation. It's just going to be this really fun, cool, like interactive lying behavior. It's like, look at these amazing macaws. I mean, people are definitely going to want to know their names. Yeah, I don't know. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Right now, we just worry about like crossing more about it and shit.
Yeah, don't do that. Yeah, but I'm happy to chat more. Like I said, I have strong feelings, but you and I can usually hash things out. We have good thoughts.
You will die on this hill.
No, I'm willing to hear something that will change my mind, but I don't want to have to explain that it's trouble. Blah, isn't going to change my mind.
Oh my God, you're grossing me out. This is the part of the call where I want to be like, oh my God, what's that? What do you mean? Sorry, red bug.
The best part is that as you started doing that, you actually broke up for a second. That was amazing. Yeah, it was good time.
No, that was acting. No, it wasn't.
My friend, I've seen you act. I remember that play that I saw you in that you told me to never mention on the podcast.
What?
Sorry.
That one? Oh my God, that play?
Okay. Well, I will talk to you later, my friend. Thanks for hopping on.
Okay. Thank you. Bye. Are we actually hanging out?
And of course, the answer was no, we were not actually hanging up. And then we proceeded to talk about other things for another hour because Dani and I are just really good friends. And it's really special to have someone like that in my life and to get to share her with y'all. Like, how cool is that? And how transparent is that? That story was so much and so intense. And, I'm sure that everyone who has ever worked with animals or had a pet or anything like that could certainly appreciate where Dani was coming from and how that felt. So, I want to thank y'all for listening to this special. I can't even call it. It was just an interview episode, let's be honest. But this special edition of Rossifari Zoo News. And even though I didn't use any of your stories this week, I do want to thank everyone who sent me stories this week. And like I said, they will be in contention for next week. So thank you to Anya Keene, Colleen Linehan, Kim Cooley-Croninger, Carrie Kirkpatrick, Kevin Williams, Emily Rockbuck, Dr. Natalie Taco, Jess Wells, Dr. Laura Shank, Barbara Bennett, April Taylor, Michael Sebastian, Crystal Chapman, Kristen Khalil, Anna McEachran, Holly Page, Jacob Zinn, Marianne Rossi, Ann Yoshioka, Mark Hansen, Ali Malensky, Kay Malensky, The Malenskys, Daniel Cohen, Madeline Weaver, Dr. Zoe Rossi, Kristen Dickey, Miles Rossi, Maddie Pats, Jay Meredith, Becca Robinson, and Sarah Gilsol. Thank you all so much for sending me stuff. And also thank you to all of my patrons, especially my Red Panda level patrons, Dr. Laura Shank, Dr. Stephen Williamson, Barbara Bennett, Jenny Owens, Melissa Reed, Carrie Kirkpatrick, John Lewis, who is also here for stickers, Kevin Williams, and Cormac McMuffin. Meow. I'll be back here on Tuesday with a normal interview episode ? I mean, it will be. It's just amusing to me that that's kind of what this was too. And then on Friday, back for a normal Zoo News episode. But until then, remember, friends, the words newsy credits backwards are Steider Giswen.
The Rossifari podcast is produced, hosted, and engineered by John Rossi. Editing and fact-checking by John and Dr. Zoe Rossi. Our theme song is Sevens by Nathan Burke, performed by Nathan and John. Interrupting John theme and additional voices by Taylor Isaac Gray. You can reach John directly on Instagram and Facebook at Rossifari or by email at rossifaripod@gmail.com. Rossifari is part of the Daydreamer Media Network. Now, stop listening to me and go visit a zoo.